My name is Valeria. I'm 42 years old. And what I'm about to tell you today changed completely my perspective on marriage, family, and above all, the value a woman must give herself. I was sitting in my private office, reviewing the quarterly financial statements, when I received that WhatsApp message that would set everything off. It was from my sister-in-law, Sarah, my husband Michael's younger sister. The message was simple but devastating. Valeria, I know this is awkward, but I need to ask you something. Why did you decide not to come to my wedding? Michael told us you preferred to stay and work that weekend. I just wanted to make sure I didn't do anything to upset you. My hands started to tremble as I reread the message over and over. The blood in my veins turned to ice, and I felt the world I had built over 15 years of marriage begin to crumble like a house of cards. Because I hadn't decided not to go to that wedding. In fact, I didn't even know the date was confirmed. For you to understand the magnitude of this betrayal, I need to tell you how I got here. My story with Michael began 17 years ago, when we both worked at a consulting firm downtown. I was a project manager, fresh out of my MBA program, and all the ambition in the world running through my veins. Michael was the star accountant in the finance department, 3 years older than me, with those honey-colored eyes that hypnotized me from day one. Our love story seemed like something out of a romantic movie. He was attentive, thoughtful. He brought me flowers every Friday and wrote me love notes that he left hidden on my desk. I remember our first date perfectly. He took me to an Italian restaurant in the most exclusive part of the city. And as we shared a bottle of red wine, he told me about his dreams, about how he wanted a traditional family, but with a strong, independent woman like me. Valeria, he told me that night, taking my hand in his, you are exactly the type of woman I always dreamed of marrying. Smart, ambitious, beautiful. I don't want a wife who depends on me. I want a partner, an equal. How could I not fall madly in love with a man who seemed to value exactly who I was? During our 2-year relationship, Michael was the perfect boyfriend. He supported me in my work projects, celebrated my successes as if they were his own. And when I told him about my dream of one day having my own business in the hotel industry, he was the first to encourage me. Michael's family was a completely different story. His mother, Linda, was a woman in her late 60s who had dedicated her entire life to being a housewife and raising her 3 children. Michael, the oldest, David, the middle child, and Sarah, the princess of the house, 15 years younger than Michael. From the first day Michael took me to meet her, I felt her disapproval like invisible daggers stabbing me in the back. So, you work at the same company as my son, Linda said during that first family dinner, her tone dripping with condescension. And don't you think that when you have children, someone should stay home to take care of them? The way God intended? Michael squeezed my hand under the table. A gesture I interpreted as support, but now, looking back, maybe it was more of a warning not to respond. I, naive and in love, smiled and said, "Well, Linda, Michael and I believe we can balance family and work. There are many options nowadays." The dinner continued with awkward glances and passive-aggressive comments about modern women and how, in her day, wives knew their place. David, the middle brother, barely spoke the entire evening. But Sarah, who was only 12 at the time, looked at me with a mix of curiosity and admiration that gave me hope that I would at least have one ally in that family. We got married a year later, in an intimate but elegant ceremony. By that time, I had inherited a considerable sum from my paternal grandmother, who had been one of the first female entrepreneurs of her generation. With that money, plus my savings and a bank loan, I had bought a small boutique hotel in the city's historic district. It was in ruins. It needed a complete renovation, but I saw its potential. Michael knew my plans, of course. In fact, he helped me with the numbers, reviewed the business plan, came with me to meetings with contractors. But a funny thing happened. He never told his family about my investment. "It's better to keep business and family separate," he would tell me. "You know how my mother is. She'll think you're wasting money that you should be saving for our future children." And I, fool that I was, agreed. After all, what did it matter if his family didn't know? It was my project, my dream, my investment. During the first 5 years of marriage, I worked tirelessly on the renovation and launch of the hotel. They were hard years, full of challenges, sleepless nights, problems with permits, contractors who didn't deliver. employees who had to be trained from scratch. Michael, I must admit, was supportive during those years. When I came home exhausted, with swollen feet and makeup streaked by tears of frustration, he was there with a glass of wine and words of encouragement. "You're going to make it, my love," he would say while hugging me. "You're the strongest woman I know." The hotel, which I named Casa Esmeralda in honor of my grandmother, opened its doors exactly 10 years ago. The first few months were difficult. Occupancy was low, reviews were mixed, but slowly, with obsessive dedication to detail and impeccable service, Casa Esmeralda began to gain a reputation. First, it was the local travel blogs, then the tourism magazines, then international influencers. By the third year, Casa Esmeralda had won its first award for Best Boutique Hotel in the city. By the fifth year, we were in all the major travel guides. By the seventh year, I had to turn down buyout offers from international hotel chains that wanted to acquire my little gem. But as my professional life flourished, something in my marriage began to wither, so slowly that I didn't notice until it was too late. Michael's words of admiration turned into subtle criticisms. "Don't you think you spend too much time at the hotel?" David's kids ask why their aunt is never at family gatherings. My mother says a woman who works that much must have something to hide. I tried to balance everything. I rearranged my schedule to attend the Sunday lunches at Linda's house, where I invariably ended up helping her, in the kitchen while the men watched football. I listened for hours to my mother-in-law's complaints about how hard life was, while she lived in a house her sons had bought for her and hadn't worked a single day outside her home. "Valeria," she told me once while we were peeling potatoes for lunch, "I don't understand why you insist on that little job of yours. Michael earns good money. You could live comfortably on his salary. A woman should be creating a home, not wasting time in offices." "It's more than a job, Linda," I tried to explain with all the patience I could muster. "It's my company, my life's project." She snorted with disdain. "Life's project. In my day, a woman's life project was her family. That's why marriages lasted. Now with all this independence and women's lib, look at the state of the world." Michael never defended me in those conversations. When I confronted him in private, he always had an excuse. "You know my mother, she's from another generation. It's not worth arguing with her. She doesn't mean any harm." But the breaking point in our relationship came exactly 2 years ago, when Casa Esmeralda was selected as one of the 50 best boutique hotels in Latin America. It was a monumental achievement, recognition for a decade of hard work. I organized a celebration dinner at the hotel's restaurant. I invited my entire team, my investors, my friends. Michael arrived late, left early, and during the toast. While I was thanking everyone who had made that dream possible, I saw him looking at his phone with a frown. "Is everything okay?" I asked him when we finally got home that night. "My mother is upset," he replied without looking at me. "She says it's humiliating for her daughter-in-law to be in magazines showing off her money while her son goes unnoticed." Showing off my money? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Michael, it's my work, my achievement. Can't you be proud of me?" "Of course I'm proud," he said, but his tone said the opposite. "I'm just saying you could be more discreet. The whole family doesn't need to know about your successes." That night we slept in separate rooms for the first time in our marriage. And although we went back to sharing a bed, something fundamental had broken between us. The situation with Sarah, Michael's younger sister, was completely different. She had grown up seeing me as a role model. When she turned 18, she asked me for advice on what career to study. When she graduated with a business degree, I was the first person she called. When she got her first job, we celebrated together with champagne on the terrace of Casa Esmeralda. 6 months ago, Sarah called me, excited, to tell me she was getting married. Andrew, her boyfriend of 3 years, had finally proposed. "Valeria, I need your help," she told me, with that mix of excitement and nerves typical of brides. "I want my wedding to be at Casa Esmeralda. I know it's very exclusive and there's a waiting list of over a year, but you're my favorite sister-in-law. Well, my only sister-in-law, but also my favorite. Do you think you could make an exception?" Of course, I said yes. Not only that, I offered her a significant family discount and got personally involved in the planning. We spent entire afternoons reviewing menus, choosing flowers, designing the reception layout. Sarah was radiant, and I was honored to be part of such a special moment in her life. During those planning sessions, Sarah confessed something to me that should have been a red flag. "Valeria, can I ask you something personal?" she said one day while we were looking at centerpiece options. "Of course, tell me. Why don't you and Michael have kids? I mean, you've been married for 15 years. My mom always says it's because you don't want to, but I've never had the courage to ask you directly." I felt a lump in my throat. The truth was painful and private. Michael and I had tried to have children during the first 5 years of marriage. We went through fertility treatments, multiple disappointments, 2 miscarriages that shattered my heart. When the doctors finally determined there was an issue with Michael's sperm quality, he flatly refused to consider other options like adoption or donors. "If it can't be biologically mine, I'd rather not have children," he had said, and that was the end of that conversation. But of course, he told his family that I was the one who didn't want kids, that I was too focused on my career, and I, out of love, out of respect for his male pride, never contradicted him. "It's complicated, Sarah," I finally replied. "Sometimes things don't work out as you plan." She took my hand affectionately. "I'm sorry if I was nosy. It's just, you would be an amazing mother, and an amazing aunt too. When Andrew and I have kids, I want you to be their godmother." I was moved to tears. In this family that constantly made me feel like an outsider, Sarah was my only refuge. The following weeks passed with wedding preparations and the normal management of the hotel. Michael seemed distant, but I attributed it to work stress. He had mentioned he had an important project, that he would be home late several nights. I suspected nothing. After 15 years of marriage, you learn to give your partner space. Until that fateful WhatsApp message from Sarah arrived. With trembling fingers, I replied, "Sarah, what are you talking about? I didn't decide not to go to your wedding. I didn't even know you had a final date." Her reply came almost instantly. "What? Valeria, the wedding is this Saturday. Michael confirmed you both were attending a month ago. But last week he called to say only he was coming because you had unavoidable work commitments." The world stopped. This Saturday. The wedding was in 5 days and I knew nothing. My own husband had canceled my invitation to his sister's wedding, which was being held in my hotel, without even consulting me. "Sarah, can we talk on the phone? Something is very wrong here," I wrote. My phone rang immediately. "Valeria, what's going on?" Sarah's voice sounded worried and confused. "That's what I'd like to know," I replied, trying to stay calm even though I felt my world falling apart. "Michael never told me the date was confirmed. In fact, the last time we talked about it, he said you were still deciding between 2 possible dates." "Valeria, that was 2 months ago. We sent the invitations out 6 weeks ago. Michael picked his up personally because he said he wanted to give it to you himself as a surprise." Surprise. The word echoed in my mind like a death knell. My husband had deliberately hidden his sister's wedding invitation from me. But why? "Sarah, I need you to tell me exactly what Michael told you when he canceled my attendance." I heard Sarah take a deep breath on the other end of the line. He said, "Oh, Valeria, I feel bad repeating it. Please, I need to know. He said you had a big fight about work, that you were obsessed with the hotel and that you had made it clear your work was more important than family. That even knowing the wedding was at Casa Esmeralda, you had scheduled an important corporate event for the same weekend and couldn't cancel it." The lies piled up like stones in my stomach. There was no corporate event that weekend. In fact, I had specifically blocked all the possible dates Sarah had mentioned for her wedding, making sure Casa Esmeralda was exclusively available for her. "Sarah, none of that is true. We haven't argued. There is no corporate event. And I would never, hear me, never choose work over your wedding. You're like a sister to me." "Then why would Michael?" Sarah didn't finish the question, but we were both thinking the same thing. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Sarah, who else knows about this?" "The whole family. My mom." She was furious. "She said this confirmed what she always thought about you, that you were a woman with no family values. David said Michael deserved a better wife. Even some cousins commented that it was disrespectful that you wouldn't even make the effort to attend, especially since it was at your hotel." Every word was a stab in the back. My reputation in that family, already fragile, had been completely destroyed by my own husband's lies. "And Andrew? What does your fiancé say?" I asked, looking for any ally in this nightmare. Andrew is as confused as I am. He really likes you, Valeria. In fact, he was the one who insisted I call you to clear things up. He said it just didn't sound like you. Thank God for Andrew. At least someone had common sense in that family. Sarah, listen to me. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. But I need you to do me a favor. Don't tell Michael we talked, not yet. I need to understand what's happening before I confront him. Valeria, do you think? No, it can't be. What is it, Sarah? Do you think Michael is? No, forget it. It's crazy. But I knew exactly what she was thinking. The same horrible suspicion that was beginning to form in my own mind. Was it possible that Michael was planning to attend the wedding with someone else? After hanging up with Sarah, I sat in my office for what felt like hours, though it was probably only minutes. My mind replayed every detail of the last few months, searching for signs I had missed. The late arrivals, the excuses about important projects, the emotional distance, the lack of intimacy I had blamed on stress. I picked up my phone and checked the shared calendar Michael and I had. Sure enough, Saturday was empty. There was no note about the wedding. I checked his social media, something I hadn't done in months because I trusted him blindly. His last post was from 3 weeks ago, a generic photo of a sunset with a motivational quote about new beginnings. New beginnings. I decided I needed more information before confronting Michael. I called Marina, my personal assistant and right hand at Casa Esmeralda. Marina, I need you to do a very discreet favor for me, I said when she answered. Of course, Mrs. Valeria. What do you need? Check the reservations for this Saturday. Specifically, I want to know all the details about the Dominguez Herrera wedding. I heard Marina's rapid typing. Yes, here it is. Wedding of Sarah Dominguez and Andrew Herrera, main ballroom, 150 guests, ceremony at 5 p.m., reception at 7 p.m., everything is confirmed and, oh, what is it? There's a note. Here. Mr. Michael Dominguez called last week to make a change to the guest list. He canceled one spot and added another name. My heart stopped. What name did he add? Natasha Miller. He put her at the same table as him, in the spot that was originally yours, Mrs. Valeria. Natasha Miller. I knew that name. She was the new finance manager at Michael's company, a woman in her 30s I had met at the company Christmas party. I remembered noticing her because Michael introduced her with unusual enthusiasm, and because she looked me up and down with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Marina, is there anything else I should know? Well, Marina hesitated. I don't know if it's relevant, but Mr. Dominguez also booked one of our suites for that weekend. The small honeymoon suite. He said it was for a relative coming from out of town, but what? The reservation is under N. Miller, and it's only for one person, from Friday to Sunday. The pieces of the puzzle clicked into place devastatingly. My husband had not only excluded me from his sister's wedding, but he was planning to attend with another woman, a woman for whom he had booked a suite in my hotel. Marina, I need another favor. Check the hotel's security cameras from the last few weeks. Specifically, look for Mr. Dominguez. See if he has been here without my knowledge. Mrs. Valeria, is everything all right? No, Marina. It's not all right. But it will be. Do me that favor and call me as soon as you have information. I hung up and leaned back in my chair. The initial pain was giving way to a cold, calculated fury. 15 years of marriage. 15 years of putting up with his family's scorn. Of sacrificing my desire to be a mother to protect his ego. Of building an empire while he felt dwarfed by my success. And this is how he repaid me. My phone rang. It was Marina. Mrs. Valeria, I checked the recordings. Mr. Dominguez has been here 3 times in the last 2 weeks. He always comes in through the side entrance, the one by the parking garage. And he's always with the same woman, dark hair, tall, in her 30s. Natasha Miller. Yes, matches the registration description. Ma'am, in one of the recordings, they look very close. I understand. Marina, save all those recordings. And one more thing. I want you to change the reservation for that suite. Make it show as canceled due to non-payment. But ma'am, just do it. And Marina, this stays between us for now. Of course, Mrs. Valeria. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry, just help me do what I have to do. That night, Michael came home at 10, as had been his habit in recent weeks. I was in the living room, a glass of wine in my hand, pretending to watch TV. "Hi, love," he said, giving me a superficial kiss on the cheek. "How was your day?" The hypocrisy of his casual greeting turned my stomach, but I kept my composure. "Fine. The usual. And yours? How's that big project going?" "Exhausting," he replied, loosening his tie. "But it's almost over. This weekend I can finally get some rest." This weekend? The wedding was this weekend, and he was acting like it was nothing. "That's good," I said, taking a sip of wine. "Any plans?" I saw a flash of nervousness cross his face before he answered. "Nothing special. Maybe go to the club with David. What about you?" "I have to work," I lied, playing along. "There's an important event at the hotel." "Always working," he said with a theatrical sigh. "Sometimes I wonder if that hotel is more important to you than your family." The irony of his comment was so bitter I almost choked on my wine. He, who was cheating on me and excluding me from his family, was accusing me of not valuing family. "Michael," I said, looking him straight in the eye, "is there anything you want to tell me?" "Like what?" His tone was defensive. "I don't know, you tell me. Something about your family, maybe? An important event?" I saw him swallow. "No, not that I know of." "Are you sure? Because Sarah has been very quiet lately." "I thought maybe there was news about the wedding." "Oh, the wedding." Michael visibly relaxed, thinking he had dodged the bullet. "Yeah, I think they decided on a date, but I don't remember when it is." You know how I am with dates. Every lie was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. But I decided to play along a little more. "We should ask her. I mean, I assume they'll want to have the reception at Casa Esmeralda. I'd need to block the date." "Oh, I don't think that's necessary," he said quickly. "I think they're considering other places. Your hotel is very expensive, even with a family discount." I couldn't help a bitter laugh. "My hotel is too expensive? Michael, I'd offer to do it for free if they wanted. Sarah is your sister." "Well, you know how my mother is. She doesn't like to feel like she owes favors." "Linda, of course she would have something to do with this, but I decided to save that card for later." "You're right," I said, getting up. "Your mother has always been very proud. I'm going to bed. I'm tired." "You're not eating dinner?" "I'm not hungry. Good night, Michael." I went up to our room, but not to sleep. I had a lot to plan. I spent the next 2 days gathering evidence and making preparations. Marina kept me informed of Michael's every move at the hotel. We found out he had used our joint credit card to pay for Natasha's suite, which was not only a betrayal but also financially shameless. I also did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. I needed to know how deep this betrayal went. The results were devastating, but not surprising. Michael and Natasha had been in a relationship for 6 months. They met regularly at hotels, restaurants out of town, and even at her apartment. The investigator also discovered something interesting. Natasha was married. Her husband was a businessman who traveled frequently, which made her meetings with Michael easier. She was a woman who knew exactly what she was doing, destroying one marriage while keeping hers intact. But the hardest blow came when the investigator showed me photos of Michael entering a jewelry store. He bought a diamond necklace, he informed me. Quite expensive, paid in cash. A diamond necklace. In 15 years of marriage, Michael had never given me diamonds. He said they were gaudy, that he preferred more meaningful gifts. Apparently, for Natasha, the flashiness was worth it. On Thursday night, 2 days before the wedding, I received an unexpected call. It was Linda. "Valeria." Her voice was even colder than usual. "We need to talk about your behavior." My behavior? I kept my voice neutral, though inside I was boiling with rage. "Sarah tells me you called her to complain about not being invited to her wedding. That's the height of audacity. First, you reject the invitation because of your work, and now you want to cause drama to ruin her special day." "Linda, I think there's a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," she interrupted. "I always knew you weren't the right woman for my son. A woman who puts her work above her family doesn't deserve to be called a wife. Michael is a saint for putting up with you all these years." "A saint?" I couldn't hold back a bitter laugh. "Did you know that your saint of a son is?" I stopped myself. No, Linda didn't deserve to be the first to know. I would save that revelation for a more appropriate moment. Is what? She asked suspiciously. Nothing, Linda. You're right. I'm not the wife Michael deserves. I'm glad you finally recognize it. I hope that after this snub to the family, Michael makes the right decisions about his future. Oh, I'm sure decisions will be made very soon, I said with a calm I didn't feel. Have a good night, Linda. I hung up before she could reply. That night, Michael came home earlier than usual. He seemed nervous, anxious. He poured himself a whiskey, then another. Finally, he sat down across from me in the living room. Valeria, we need to talk. I'm listening. I kept my expression neutral, though my heart was pounding. This weekend, I need space. I think we should spend a few days apart to think about our marriage. The man's audacity was stunning. He wanted me to leave so he could take his mistress to the wedding without complications. Think about our marriage, I repeated. Is there something specific you're worried about? It's just, I feel like we've lost the connection. You're always at the hotel. I'm always working. We're like two strangers sharing a house. I understand, I said, nodding slowly. And what do you suggest? Maybe you could go to that spa you like so much. Take a few days for yourself. I'll stay here. I need time to think. Alone. Alone? I couldn't hide the sarcastic tone. Yes, alone. Why do you say it like that? No reason. It just seems strange that you need space this weekend, of all weekends. Is there nothing else you want to tell me? I saw panic cross his face for a second before he composed himself. I don't know what you're talking about. I stood up and walked to the window, turning my back to him. Michael, we've been married for 15 years. Do you really think I'm that stupid? Valeria, I don't know what you're talking about. I turned to face him. Sarah's wedding is this Saturday, in my hotel, and you canceled my invitation to take Natasha Miller. The color drained from his face. For a moment, it looked like he was going to deny everything, but then his shoulders slumped. How did you find out? Really? That's your response? Not I'm sorry, not I can explain, just, how did you find out? Valeria, it's not what you think. Please. My voice broke. Don't insult me with more lies. I know everything, Michael. The 6-month affair, the hotel meetings, the suite you booked for her in my hotel. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Michael stood up, his expression changing from guilt to anger. You want the truth? Fine. Yes, I'm with Natasha. And you know why? Because she makes me feel like a man. Not like the failed husband of the great businesswoman Valeria. Failed? Michael, I have always supported you. No, he yelled. You've always overshadowed me. Your hotel this, your hotel that. Do you know what it's like to go to family gatherings and have everyone talk about how successful my wife is while they look at me with pity? That's ridiculous. It's not. My mother is right. A woman should support her husband, not compete with him. Natasha understands that. She admires me, she respects me. Natasha is married, Michael. She's playing you just like you played me. She's going to leave her husband. We love each other. The word love was the last straw. Love? You know what love is, Michael. Love is what I felt for you for 15 years. Love is keeping quiet about your infertility to protect your ego. Love is putting up with your family's insults without complaining. Love is building an empire and never rubbing it in your face, even when you didn't celebrate my successes. Don't talk to me about love. You talk about sacrifice? You put your work above everything else. My work? I laughed bitterly. My work is what paid for your mother's house when hers was foreclosed on, though you took the credit. My work is what paid for David's cancer treatment when his insurance didn't cover everything. My work is what's paying for Sarah's wedding because I know she and Andrew don't have much money, but you know what, you're right, I was a fool. I should have chosen my work over you years ago. Michael turned pale. Valeria, No. It's over. You want to go to the wedding with Natasha? Go ahead. But there are a few things you should know. I pulled out my phone and showed him an email. First, the suite you booked for your mistress was canceled. It seems there was a problem with the payment. What? You can't do that. It's my hotel. I can do whatever I want. Second, I continued, showing him another document, our joint accounts have been frozen. My lawyer says it's standard procedure in cases of divorce for adultery. Divorce? Valeria, don't be dramatic. Dramatic? Michael, you cheated on me. You humiliated me. You excluded me from your family. What did you expect? That I would applaud you? We can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, but don't worry. I'm not going to ruin Sarah's wedding. I won't show up. That's my gift to her, not having to deal with family drama on her special day. Michael looked relieved for a moment, until I added, Of course there will be consequences after the wedding. What kind of consequences? I smiled, but there was no joy in it. You'll see. Now, I suggest you pack your things. I don't want to see you here when I get back. You're kicking me out of my house? It's not your house. It's in my name. I bought it with my money before we got married. Another detail you conveniently forgot. I left the house that night and checked into my own hotel. Marina had prepared the presidential suite for me, the one we reserved for VIP guests. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the balcony, looking at the city lights. 15 years. 15 years thrown in the trash by a man who couldn't handle his wife's success. But as I looked at my hotel, my creation, my legacy, I realized something. I hadn't lost 15 years. I had invested them in building something beautiful, something mine, something no man could ever take away from me. Friday passed in a blur of preparations. As the hotel owner, I personally oversaw every detail of Sarah's wedding. I wanted everything to be perfect for her, despite it all. Marina and the rest of the staff knew something was wrong, but being professionals, they didn't ask questions. At 3 p.m., I saw Michael arrive on the security cameras. He was with Natasha, both of them laughing as they entered the hotel. She was wearing a red dress that he had probably bought for her. I watched them check in, watched Michael, try to explain the misunderstanding with the suite, and watched them finally have to settle for a standard room. Mrs. Valeria, Marina approached me. The Dominguez family is arriving for the rehearsal. Sure enough, Linda was entering the hotel with David and his family. Sarah and Andrew arrived shortly after. From my office, I could see everything without being seen. The rehearsal went smoothly, although I noticed Sarah kept looking towards the door, probably expecting me. At one point, I saw her talking to Michael, gesticulating animatedly. He just shook his head, no doubt repeating his lies about my supposed work addiction. That night, while I was having dinner alone in my suite, I received a text message from an unknown number. I know who you are. Stay away from the wedding tomorrow, or there will be consequences. It was Natasha. Apparently, Michael had told her about our confrontation. I replied, Don't worry. I have no intention of ruining Sarah's wedding, but after tomorrow, you two will be the ones facing the consequences. There was no reply. Saturday dawned gloriously, with a radiant sun that promised a perfect day for a wedding. From my suite, I could see the hustle and bustle of the final preparations. The florists were placing the last arrangements. The catering team was setting up the banquet. The musicians were tuning their instruments. At 2 p.m, Sarah arrived with her bridal party. I watched her on the cameras as she got ready in the main bridal suite. She was radiant, beautiful, happy. For a moment, my heart broke thinking that I wouldn't be there to watch her walk down the aisle. But then I remembered why I wasn't there, and the sadness turned into determination. At 4, the guests began to arrive. I saw cousins, uncles, family friends, all dressed elegantly, all ignorant of the drama unfolding behind the scenes. I saw Michael greeting guests with Natasha at his side, introducing her as a family friend. The shamelessness was stunning. Linda, for her part, looked to be in her element, parading around in a navy blue dress that was clearly new and expensive, probably paid for by Michael with money that should have been ours. At 5 o'clock sharp, the ceremony began. From my balcony, I could hear the music, the murmurs of the guests, even some emotional sobs. I allowed myself to cry, too. For the family I had lost, for the broken dreams, for the lost innocence. The reception began at 7. Music filled the air, laughter echoed down the hallways. In a moment of weakness, I went down to the kitchen through the service entrance. The chef, who knew me well, looked at me in surprise. Mrs. Valeria, I thought you'd be at the party. Change of plans, Jean-Pierre. How is everything? Perfect, just as you ordered. The bride is delighted. I'm glad. Could you prepare a slice of the cake for me when they cut it? I'll take it to my suite. Of course, ma'am. I was about to leave when I heard voices approaching. I quickly hid behind a shelving unit. It was Michael and Natasha. I can't believe you were married to the owner of this place, Natasha was saying. It's impressive. The hotel is impressive, Michael replied bitterly. She's not so much. Come on, don't be like that. She must have something special to have built all this. She got lucky. Inherited money, made a good investment. Anyone could have done it. The lie was so blatant I almost came out of my hiding place to confront him. I hadn't inherited enough to buy the hotel. I had worked, saved, taken out loans, risked everything. Well, Natasha purred, now you have me. And when your divorce is finalized, we can be together officially. About that. Michael sounded uncomfortable. It might be complicated. Valeria has good lawyers. So? You'll have good lawyers too. Besides, half of all this is yours, right? You were married for 15 years. Technically, the hotel was pre-marriage, and it's only in her name. What? Natasha's voice turned sharp. Are you telling me you're not getting anything from the hotel? I'll get other things. The house. Well, that's hers too, but we have joint investments. Michael. Natasha sounded dangerously calm. Exactly. How much money do you have on your own? I have my salary. Your salary. The contempt in her voice was palpable. I left my millionaire husband for you because I thought you had something to offer. I have a lot to offer. Love. Natasha's laugh was cruel. Love? Michael, you're a 4 or 5-year-old man with a mediocre salary, no property, and apparently no access to your wife's fortune. What exactly can you offer me? Natasha, you can't be serious. Dead serious. This is over. I'm not wasting my time on a loser who didn't even know how to secure his financial future after 15 years of marriage. I heard footsteps walking away quickly. And then a thud. Michael had punched something, probably the wall. I waited a few minutes before coming out of my hiding place. Karma sometimes works faster than expected. I went back to my suite and poured myself a glass of champagne. The irony was delicious. Michael had destroyed our marriage for a woman who only wanted him for money he never had. At 10 p.m., when the party was in full swing, I got a call from Sarah. Valeria, I know you said you wouldn't come, but I need to see you, please. I'm in the Rose Garden. The Rose Garden was a private area of the hotel, my personal sanctuary. I hesitated for a moment, but Sarah's tone sounded urgent. I found her sitting on a bench, her beautiful wedding dress shining in the moonlight. She had been crying. Sarah, what's wrong? You should be enjoying your party. Valeria. She stood up and hugged me tightly. I know everything. Andrew saw Michael and that woman kissing in the hallway. We confronted him and... Oh my God, Valeria, I am so sorry. I held her as she cried. It's not your fault, honey. Yes, it is. I should have defended you when my mother spoke badly of you. I should have realized what Michael was doing. You're my sister, the sister I always wanted, and I failed you. You didn't fail me, Sarah. None of this is your fault. My mom is furious, she continued through sobs. But not with you, with Michael. When she found out the woman is married, that she only wanted him for money, she almost had a heart attack. She's in there right now, yelling at Michael in front of all the guests. I couldn't help but feel a small amount of satisfaction. Linda was finally seeing her perfect son for who he really was. Valeria, Sarah looked at me with pleading eyes. Could you come inside with me? Just for a moment. I want everyone to know that you are my family, no matter what Michael did. Sarah, it's your special day. I don't want to ruin it anymore. You wouldn't ruin it. You would save it. Please? How could I say no to those tear-filled eyes? I took her hand and we walked into the ballroom together. The silence that fell when I entered was deafening. All eyes turned to me. I saw Michael in a corner, his shirt untucked, a defeated look on his face. Linda was nearby, her face a mask of fury and shame. Natasha was nowhere to be seen. Sarah took the microphone. Family friends, I want everyone to know that Valeria is, and always will be, my sister. She is the owner of this beautiful hotel that she generously allowed us to use for our wedding. She is an extraordinary woman who has endured more than anyone should have to. And if anyone has a problem with her being here, You can leave." The applause started slowly, initiated by Andrew, then his parents, then friends, until the whole room was clapping. I saw tears on many faces, including, surprisingly, David's. Linda approached me slowly. For the first time in 15 years, I didn't see contempt in her eyes, but something resembling respect and shame. "Valeria," her voice was barely a whisper, "I have no words to apologize. I was a fool, a bitter old woman who didn't know how to value the jewel my son had. I poisoned myself with my own prejudices, and I poisoned my son with them. I'm sorry." It was more than I ever expected to hear from her. "Linda, I appreciate your words, but the damage is done. I know. And I understand if you never forgive me. But I want you to know, everything you did for this family, I know now. David told me about his treatment, about the house. You are a better person than any of us deserve." I walked away without answering. I wasn't ready for forgiveness. Maybe I never would be. The rest of the night passed in a blur. I danced with Andrew, chatted with guests, smiled for photos. Michael disappeared at some point, and honestly, I didn't care. At midnight, as the party was winding down, Sarah hugged me one more time. "Thank you for everything, Valeria. For the hotel, for coming, for being who you are. You will always be my sister, Sarah. No matter what happens with Michael. What is going to happen? With the divorce, I mean. My lawyers will handle it. But don't worry about that now. Enjoy your honeymoon." The following months were a legal and emotional whirlwind. Michael tried to fight for a part of the hotel, claiming he had emotionally contributed to its success. His lawyers laughed when my lawyers presented evidence of his adultery, including the security footage and testimonies from multiple wedding guests. In the end, not only did he get nothing from the hotel, but he had to pay me compensation for his mistress's expenses charged to our joint cards. Natasha, for her part, went back to her husband, who apparently forgave her in exchange for a very strict postnup. Michael was left alone, living in a one-bedroom apartment, his reputation ruined both professionally and socially. Linda tried to reach out to me several times, sending apology letters, flowers. She even showed up at the hotel once, but I wasn't ready for that relationship. Maybe I never would be. David, surprisingly, became an unexpected ally. He apologized profusely for his years of complicity and helped me during the divorce process, testifying about Michael's lies. Sarah and I kept our relationship. She and Andrew come to the hotel for dinner once a month, and when they announced her pregnancy, I was the first person they called. I'm going to be the godmother to her baby, the niece or nephew I never thought I'd have. And me? I'm better than ever. Casa Esmeralda continues to grow. We just opened a second location on the coast. I'm dating someone new, an architect I met during the hotel expansion. He's kind, self-assured, and most importantly, he celebrates my successes instead of feeling threatened by them. Sometimes I think about those 15 years with Michael. I don't consider them lost, but an investment in learning. I learned that love isn't enough if it doesn't come with respect. I learned that one-sided sacrifices don't build marriages, they destroy them. And I learned that a successful woman doesn't need to shrink herself to make an insecure man feel better. What would you have done in my place? Have you had a partner who couldn't handle your success? I'd love to read your stories in the comments. If this story reminds you of something you've lived through, write to me in the comments. You are not alone in this. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't what we plan, but what life serves up for us. The last time I saw Michael was a week ago. He was at the cafe across from my hotel, alone, staring at the building I helped build while he was building lies. Our eyes met for a moment. He raised his hand in a tentative wave. I just turned around and walked into my hotel, my life, my future. Because at the end of the day, the best revenge wasn't taking anything from him. It was showing him everything he lost because of his own stupidity and ego. It was showing him that I didn't need him to be successful, happy, and whole. It was living my best life while he drowned in the consequences of his decisions. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. In the comments, tell me, have you lived through something similar? What country are you watching from? I read all the comments because every story you share helps me understand that we are not alone in these struggles. Grandma's Diane family, thank you for listening to my story. Remember, never shrink yourself for anyone. Your light doesn't dim just because someone else can't handle your brightness. Shine, shine bright. And let those who can't stand it wear sunglasses. Until the next story, this is Valeria, reminding you that the best revenge is always to live well, live happy, and live without looking back.